You think a lot of people always mention things ever since they put it in Project Diablo 2 and stuff like that. Different types of AOE damage for any of the melee characters. A lot of people say splash damage. Do you have any opinion on that?
I mean, I think that like it could work. I mean, you're bordering on like a. I'm not really sure how well it would work out though, because you know how they changed leap attack. Leap attack has like a little like war cry that comes out of it.
Yeah.
Like I did a lot of kind of like work in figuring out whether that was actually viable or not. Like maybe how you could make like a leap attack barbarian, and no matter how high the damage I got on that little circle ability, like it just didn't ever really seem like it did enough. It's part of the issue with kind of like splash damage in Diablo is that the monsters regenerate so quickly. I ran into this problem when I was building a Thorns Paladin. So I was playing around with the idea of building a Thorns Paladin, and I started to notice that it wasn't that the Thorns wasn't doing damage, because it was. The monsters were regenerating so fast that the small amounts of damage that I was doing was pointless. Like you would see the monster's HP go like this, and then immediately go back up. And like every single time they took a spike, their HP was just going right back up because nothing was locking them into locking them out of regeneration. So I started to do some tests with it, and I found out that like if you have prevent monster heal and you're in the same situation, so I basically just sat there with a 0 damage bow and I just prevent monster healed all the monsters, and then I let them thorns, hit me with the thorns. I actually did damage to them. So like I'm not sure if splash damage would help as much, because if you're not like actively focusing on killing a monster, it seems like the game is designed to almost prevent you from just doing like generic AOE damage, like because the monsters are just kind of designed to just regenerate any damage that you do unless it like overcomes their natural regeneration process. If you can't breach that number, so unless they add splash damage at a high enough value so that it can actually kill the monsters, it might not do anything.
Yeah, like you're saying, it'd have to be added in, like the entire splash damage would have to be the same as the regular normal attack, but like amount of damage.
I mean, like it would be like a cleave, at that point. Like it would almost be like, okay, well, I can hit all the monsters in front of me, like in this swath or something, or like stomps and stuff like that. Like in MMOs, you'd have like a stomp and it would like go backward and hit everything, kind of like Shockwave, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in D4 that's kind of how it is. I don't know technically how technically difficult it would be to do in Diablo 2. Like I don't think the way the game's set up, you can really set it up to have a slash area, but I don't really base this on any actual programming knowledge of the game. But I feel like you'd almost just have to do a radius, since they already kind of have that established in the game where the damage would go,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would like to see like some way that the melees could have some sort of like AOE damage. I'm not entirely sure how they can do it without fundamentally changing the way the game works. Maybe they could do it with the addition of the new rune words.
There you go. Put a rune word in, something like 20% chance of corpse explosion when a monster dies or something.
I mean, corpse explosion is extremely powerful.
Yeah,
and like a corpse explosion,
you could, but with that skill too, if you did that, it would be like you could pick the level of the corpse explosion. So you'd kind of like, let's say you made the rune word first and it was like level 15, and you're like, oh geez, that like the radius would be too big, so you'd be shrinking, and you could shrink the radius down to just like small. That's essentially splash damage, I guess, but only on kill.
I mean, I hate to say it, but even just level 1, like even just level 1 corpse explosion on a melee character would be massive. Because if you got to think you're in the middle of a huge group of monsters. As a melee, they're always piled around you,
right?
Like it's you can't really kite them or anything. You just kind of have to stand there and just deal with it.
Yeah,
and then as soon as you
would use like taunt, get the monsters to always come at you, and
and as you kill them, you would dish out a pretty decent amount of corpse explosion damage. Like that could be a very interesting weapon choice. Like if they made a weapon that had a chance to proc corpse explosion on killing a monster. There actually is a weapon. It doesn't have corpse explosion, but it has the other crappier one, poison explosion.
Oh yeah, I was
Viper Fork, I think is what it is.
I was actually just looking at that earlier.
Yeah, so it'll eat the corpses. So like, well, the poison explosion's terrible. Like it's awful. But if they were to swap that with Corpse Explosion, all of a sudden you'd have people using that. I'd put that on my Merc if it had Corpse Explosion on it, and so I'd just let him get in there and do his work.
Yeah, and that's just an idea. I know that might end up being something that would be OP, like you said, plug it in on your mercenary, so then you'd be getting these random Corpse Explosions with any character that you're playing.